Welcome everyone, Costin here with the Broken Arrow open beta playtest, which has the demo mission that was made available a while ago. I didn't get the chance to play it back then, but this game is looking to be a very interesting title. The way I'd see it is this game is the successor of, in a lot of ways, of Wargame Red Dragon. Sure, there's also Warno that's going to come out, and that's the real successor of Wargame Red Dragon whenever that game fully comes out, and I'm not just talking about early access. Also, with this kind of game, what I'm interested in is like the idea of a successor in a way, or a spiritual successor to World in Conflict, which is one of my favorite games. So I'm going to play the demo mission, but first off, I want to look at the arsenal, the deck, if you will, the army builder. And I've created a US battle group. I'm going to go over the US deck, and I'm going to customize it. And I've named it Old Ironsides. Now, the way a deck works is that when you create a deck, when you create a battle group, you can choose two specializations. But right now, you don't get to choose any other than the two specializations the Russians and the Americans have. So it really is not an important choice right now. But there's obviously going to be far more specializations, like the U.S. Air Force, for instance. So right now we get the U.S. Marine Corps and we get U.S. Armored Division. First off, we're going to start with Recon. Recon is very important in a game like this because your long-range missiles, in order for them to hit, in order to get airstrikes on the target, you need to know where the enemy is. So that's where Recon comes in. Now we got ground-based recon over here. There's no air recon available for the Americans at the very least. So we get different infantry types and then different vehicles. With regards to vehicles, I am going to go with one M1A2 SAP V2 2AE. And the reason I'm going for this in particular is because I want a tank with recon capability. So let's say I want to do an armor push against an enemy formation. Well, having our recon tank is going to be pretty damn useful for that from my perspective. Then we get an IFV, and what's interesting about this game is the customization option each unit has. Now, it would be great if, let's say, I would add one and then another one, and I could customize them in different ways. I think that would be a really, really good feature to have. I'm not sure if that's going to be added in just my perspective, because so with this IFV, with the M7A2, B-Fist, fun name, I haven't really seen this vehicle before. I don't think it exists in real life. Like, most of the stuff here, like the M1A2 V2, SP V2, yeah, that does exist. But like this one, I don't think I've ever seen it. Regardless, so we're gonna go with reactive armor. Now, reactive armor is something that has been available for quite a few years, but basically it's like using an explosion to deflect a tank shell or a missile, and that's really the value over here. So this is gonna increase its survivability by quite a lot. And then we add the Iron Fist system, so this is an active protection system. I do think you need to activate it yourself, so there's quite a bit of micromanagement involved over here, but this is basically designed to intercept RPGs, missiles in general. Then we have, so I'm gonna go with two of those for sake here, and we do have different variants, so I'm gonna go with like the very, very best variant over here. So okay, we got one tank. Now, the way it works with units in combat is like the units you select over here in the deck are the units you can available max. So like I can only have one tank, one recon tank if I go with one. If I go with two, I can only have two max. But you can recover them, you can withdraw, like if they get damaged, you can repair them in battle, you can withdraw from battle if they're too heavily damaged, and you can, and even if they're destroyed, you can eventually get them back. That's the way it works. Okay. So that's one of the things I'm going to do. I could go with an APC over here, but I think for this particular purpose, I'm just going to choose not to do so, because while obviously it has the mobility, there's other ways of getting out. Besides, I already have two IFEs for the sake of like a mobile recon and a tank. I could go with some of these vehicles if I really, really wanted to. And we can get slate armor over here if I absolutely was interested in that. But one of the things, like, I could use these trucks, like I could go with some tow anti-tank missiles. I'm just gonna keep that on the back foot for the moment. Let's just take a look at some other options. First off, so we got javelin wielding scouts, so that have a different number of vehicles available with different types of weapons. So we can put them in an IV with tow missiles. That would be a great choice. That would be available. Now, the way you deploy a unit is you don't deploy a unit automatically in a vehicle. You can deploy them on foot, so you pay the initial cost of 90. If you want to put them in a vehicle, you got to pay like the 40 extra. That would be a choice. So I'm gonna go over here with the best possible option over here and use the tow too. So I'm gonna have really good scouts over here in terms of like their combat capability. And then I'm gonna get, and maybe go with just 2 of these, 2 javelins. And then I'm gonna get some scout snipers. So if I want, like over here, the vehicle is not important because none of these vehicles have like an like this is gonna be an anti-infantry recon unit, and you can use an anti-material rifle or a sniper rifle. I think I'm gonna use these guys for the sake of like anti-infantry, though, you know, anti-material would still be useful against infantry, so I guess, and you still have a DMR, a designated marksman rifle to use, so I guess maybe that would be the best. So, okay, we still got 170 points. I'm gonna go and pump out some force recons over here, and let's see how many we can get. And I might have to adjust a couple of things on the other side of this. Okay, so I am just over it. What could I do here? Like, I guess I could just drop right here and just go with free force recons and just use the Humvees to transport them, get them out, then get the Humvees out, and if I need more scouts, that could work. So that's exactly what I'm gonna go with over here. We're going with green ops, so basically longer range. So force recon marines. There's the book Generation Kill. There's the TV show Generation Kill. Recommend you read it or watch the series. Really good stuff. So that's gonna be my scouting force. So some javelins, some snipers, 1 sniper unit, and some force recon, which are also gonna have some long range anti-infantry capability. Okay, gonna leave infantry for last because that's where there's going to be a lot of decisions to be made. Let's focus on the tanks. Now, tank-wise, you get M1A2 V-Freeze. So now the V2s and V-Freeze, the benefit they have is that they have Tusk armor on the side. So basically the Abrams armor in the front is very durable, pretty much impenetrable by many systems. It's vulnerable to the sides. So the Tusk kit helps with that protection, and trophy system really helps that. You could decide, like, if you're not gonna put your tank as much at much risk, you could decide to go without Tusk. I would say trophy is pretty useful in general. So these tanks, they're very, very good. They will get the job done, and so I'm gonna go with all of these tanks, both of them over here. So like, if I'm going in an armor combat, if there's anything I've learned from Red Dragon, and hell, even World in Conflict, is like the heaviest tanks, the best equipment are the ones that get stuff done. Like, lighter tanks are just gonna be pretty easy enough to kill. And that's obviously gonna be a lot of points. That's obviously gonna be a lot of points to deploy. We could go, so we got SCP Abrams, and we got regular M1A2 Abrams. There's some differences in terms of capability over here between the 2 of them, though I would probably, let's see, let's say we go with 2 M1A2s SCPs over here, and yeah, if I go with Tusk 2, so I'm just gonna go with Tusk 1, and that is gonna be my armored force over here. Decent selection of tanks, so we're looking at 9 tanks over here, Abrams, all of them. I could have gone with an LAV, and an LAV would have had a tow missile, but I'm just not really interested right now in that. Besides, I'll get IFVs with the infantry selection, because if you just look at the infantry selection, you got Bradleys and all that stuff over there as the transport vehicles for your infantry, and that's how I'm gonna view it. Like, I don't want to get LAVs over here, though it should be pointed out that, like, you can just bring in the vehicles themselves if you want to, if you want to. So yeah, me just having a bunch of tanks here is not the problem. Now, support controls, it has artillery, has air defenses, and has supply trucks. In terms of artillery, I'm gonna bring 3 paladins. I could even go with 4. I could go with high explosive. I could go with cluster. I think I'm gonna stick with high explosive, though. You know, cluster is the same cost, so I guess it depends on the situation you're dealing with. But for now, I'm just gonna stick with high explosive rounds. Air defenses, I'm gonna bring 2 Patriots, and these are expensive, but they have different packages. So they have a self-defense package, they have armor kits. I would say if your air defense is getting shot at, you're doing something really, really wrong. So the way you want to use air defense, you want to constantly keep them moving. Like, that's the reason, like, Patriots and S300s, S400s all have mobility, even S500. So it's all about, like, keeping them mobile. Like, the mobility is really their strength. Keep them far away. Like, these are long-range anti-air defenses, and I'm going with, like, 4 missiles. You could go with 2 and decide to go, yeah, okay, I'm going to go with only 2 and keep them moving. All right. Other things as well, HIMARS, of course, gonna go with both of them. I'm gonna go with ATACMS. I'm basing a lot of these decisions. Like, I'm assuming this game is trying to be realistic. So I've followed the war in Ukraine very closely, and yeah, HIMARS it's not a wonder weapon as some people portray it as, but it certainly does give you a significant benefit. The way you want to use HIMARS and the TOS rocket launchers, you want to use them from a significant range, and you kind of keep them moving. So it doesn't really matter what armor package you have. I mean, it could help a bit, but like, yeah, if your artillery is getting targeted, like, you don't want your artillery to get hit by enemy artillery or anything like that. You do have various missiles. So you got ballistic missiles. I'd say ATACMS is probably the best choice because it is one of the best choices in real life as well. Now that brings me to various trucks that I can use over here. So, not this one. This is a mortar. Okay. With regards to trucks, I think I'm going to go with 2 of the bigger trucks. No self-defense package on it because if your trucks, like, you need trucks to resupply your units, artillery, air defenses, all that. And mind you, supply in itself costs its own points. So the way you bring supply, the trucks don't inherently have supply. You have to choose. So I'm going to go with 2 heavy trucks and 3 smaller ones. So if I really want to get something very quickly to the front line, that leaves me with 260 points. Okay. What do I do with the rest of these points? Well, there are various choices over here. So we can go with the LAV AD. So it's got Stingers. It's also got the GAU 25. So this is a fairly solid choice. I would say you can go with the LAVL, LAVM. So we got the M is the M is the mortar, and the L is what? Okay. Oh, so the L is just the transport vehicle. Okay. If you want to use that, if you want to have a very, very fast, I guess, transport vehicle, you can use that. I think I might just go with 1 LEV AD potentially, and in this case, yes, I would actually put armor on it. The reason I put armor on it is because although there are alternatives to this particular choice, so if I really wanted, I could just go with the Vulcans. They would not have those Stingers, but like these would be very good against helicopters, and that's how I would use the LEV ADs as well. Like, I would use them against helicopters, but Stingers or not, well, I can't really afford 2 of them, and that's kind of the problem, isn't it? Is it better to have 2 or 1? You want to use the Patriots. Like, obviously the Patriots are good against helicopters, and I guess just having 1 of these. There's plenty of ways of dealing with helicopters as well, so just having one dedicated unit against helicopters would be good, and as opposed to just having 2 Vulcans. Depends though, like, you could go either way. You could go with less supply, you could take out an ATACMS, you could take out the HIMARS if you really wanted to. Helicopters, you got the Viper, you got Super Cobra as attack helicopters, basically same helicopter. So it's like the Viper is just the latest iteration of the Cobra helicopter. Like, I mean, okay, it's a different thing, but it's basically like, yeah, you look at these, they look pretty similar, don't they? The Viper is just a better helicopter, it's a more modern, the latest version. It's a Marine Corps helicopter. The reason they don't use Apaches is Apaches are really damn big. That's the reason. The way I use helicopters in a game like this, like, you can go with inner pylons, outer pylons, wingtips. The benefit of the Viper is that it does have sidewinders or sidearms. I think like the sidearm is the better weapon, so it's got some anti-air capability. You can use your helicopter to snipe to take down other enemy helicopters. I'm going to go with nothing on the outer pylons over here because, like, I don't have enough points for the Hellfires, and besides, I don't necessarily want to pay that much because the cost you're increasing here is not just the limit; it's also the cost it's going to take to bring in a BAP. So instead, I'm going to go with 8 Hellfires, 18 missiles in the inner pylons, and with the outer pylons, I'm just going to leave that empty. I could go with some Hydro Rockets. You know what, I'm just going to go with some Hydro Rockets, because it's just 10 points, but I would not go with Guided Rockets. And I think it's like, yeah, you could bring another 8 Hellfires, but it's like, choppers are vulnerable, and it's probably just better to use one, use ammunition resupply, as opposed to spending that many points in a single platform. So what I'm building is certainly an elite force. It's not just chaff, but you gotta pick your fights. Then you get the Super Cobra. You can't choose to put 18 missiles here, so I'm gonna get some Hellfires over here on the outer pylon. Inner pylon, I'm going to keep 14 Hydro Rockets, and that is going to be it for the attack helicopters. So 2 attack helicopters, but not just that. I'm going to get some Venoms, so these are going to be transport helicopters. Going to put some miniguns, and I'm going to put some Guided Rockets here if I really, really want that capability. That leaves me some points, so 120 points. Maybe I should just drop the door gun and put the minigun there, or go without any. Using an Osprey for attacking is probably a really, really bad idea. Besides, it does have its own weaponry, so maybe that would be, or maybe I could just go with, like, you gotta balance it out, right? You gotta decide what's worth it, what's not. Maybe just dropping a couple of Hydro Rockets and, you know, just going with the minigun if I want to. The minigun is going to be better than machine gun, so it's like, the Osprey does have a gun, but it's like, you're not using the Osprey for the sake of, you're not going to go with the Osprey for the sake of attacking something with it. You're going to use the Osprey to transport troops and supplies and all that. That's the value it's going to bring over here. So 1 Osprey, 2 Venoms, that's transport helicopters, armed Venoms, and then we go into air. Now, with air, it's interesting that there's no F-18 Growlers over here, so we got the older Prowlers, the EA-6B Prowlers. I'm going to go with one of these, and you can select fuel tanks if we look at it. So I'm going to go with 2 ECM to get good ECM capability and go with 2 harms. On the inner pylons, 2 harms. Fuel-wise, I'm not interested necessarily in the fuel as much as I'm interested in having this thing be as deadly as possible against enemy air defenses. That's the reason I'm going with ECM, to keep myself alive, and the harms obviously to deal with those air defenses. That's what the harms are doing. They're anti-air missiles, or they're anti-radiation missiles. That's what they're called. They're used to destroy enemy air defenses. That's the role of the Prowler. The Growler is the more modern version. It's on the F-18 platform. You do have F-18s, but I'm going to go with F-35s. I just want the stealth capability. You have a bunch of like guided bombs. I'm going to go with the MRAMs on the F-35. I don't want my F-35. Like, if I had cruise missiles on it, or any long-range and air-to-ground missile, I would go with that. But instead, since we don't have that option and we only have basically like various types of bombs, I am just going to go with... I'm just going to go with the AMRAMs to hunt down enemy planes, and this is going to be my main air power capability. And then I'm going to do something that America does, and it's like, I'm going to take a CI-130 and I'm going to put Griffin missiles and Hellfire missiles on this thing. So I'm going to use the C-130, and America does this in... Like, America has put cruise missiles on transport planes. This is very America-like. It's like, look at how insane we are. You don't even see them. Or do you? Hold on a second. Okay, let's see. So where are they? Let me try and... just not seeing them. Anyway, so I've put Griffin missiles over here. So we got long-range missiles, Pursue missile, and then we got Hellfire missiles over here to use against the enemy. So yeah, we got a bunch of air-to-ground capability with the C-130. Very slow, but very long-range capability. So it's like, yeah, so much. This is what America is doing. You know, I swear, like, the B-52 and the C-130 are like gonna be forever planes. I mean, they're still producing new C-130s. It's that good of a plane. So that is my air capability. Sure, I'm not necessarily spending every single point, but you gotta balance it out. That leaves me with infantry. So we got all kinds of infantry choices. One of the things I could say in like support vehicles, I could just get rid of this LAV to put in, and instead just rely on the Stingers. What I'm going to do over here with a lot of infantry, I am going to deliberately like get some Stingers and put like get 2 Stingers and put 2 Bradleys, and I'm gonna put reactive armor, Iron Fist, upgraded engine. So these are gonna be able to drop air defenses very quickly, very swiftly against the enemy. Then we get Dragon. So we're looking at the M47 Dragon. I'm not necessarily sold on the Dragon. I think I'm gonna go with the TOW team. So we got the ESMA, we have various things. I think I'm gonna go with the TOW team over here. So TOWs are really good. Like javelins get a lot of benefits, but like TOWs, like why is that guy carrying it like that? That's a bit ridiculous. Probably a bug. So I'm gonna go with TOWs. You get an AF, a VP, which is a pretty decent vehicle. It doesn't have the capability to go toe to toe against enemy tanks, but it's like that's the reason for the totem, this saber theme for whatever reason. So we can go top attack missiles. Like the thing that defines the javelin as a missile, by the way, is that top attack, is like tank armor is not very heavy at the top. Then we're gonna go with some riflemen, so we can get a bunch of choices over here. So we can get riflemen with MMG, so we can go, let's just go with regular riflemen. So we're gonna get some good chaff, and we're gonna go with Bradleys. You can always use some other vehicles if you want to, but I think like for these guys I'm just gonna go with the Bradley, and yeah, just the best possible Bradley choice. So what I'm really doing with this infantry, and then we're gonna get some Marine Raiders. So Marine Raiders pretty solid, so we can get door kicker, standoff. Like I'm gonna go with Marine Raiders for like maybe just drop 1 unit over here. There we go. And just use the Marines to kick in the doors. Now, keep in mind, they've still got the LAW missile, so one of the things you can do with infantry, and the way you should use them, is you pack them up, you put them in buildings, you get them to buildings quickly. That's why the AFVPs are crucial here. And if a tank tries to go down a street, they might not see the infantry, so if someone's sending a tank down the street, you can just ambush them. And it's not going to kill a tank very easily, but between the grenade launcher and the LAW, they're going to do well. And they're going to be able to win like the urban combat situation. And this would be a deck for the US, so we can see recon, infantry. Could go with more infantry, I suppose. Like that's one of the things, like I could decide to go with quantity as opposed to quality, but I think it's reasonably balanced with respect to that. There's an argument to be made for going with more infantry infantry numbers, though. Keep in mind, I do have a decent amount of infantry. So I got 8 dedicated infantry units over here with good vehicles. I think like having good vehicles, though you can also just go with, you know, Marine Raiders or Marines in like really cheap vehicles. If you wanted to, you could go with that, but I think like this would be reasonably balanced as a deck. That's my perspective. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna test this out and see how well it does. I was basing this on my experience in like Red Dragon. I'm also basing it based on what I've played so far. If there is any particular downside to this, is like, yeah, all my units are kind of expensive. Maybe one of the things I could do, actually, like looking at the situation, is like I could get rid of some of these Bradleys over here, and instead, okay, so one of the things I can do is like just reduce the number of mechanized riflemen, and instead go with more Marines, because one of the benefits here, or I can view it from a different perspective. Depends on how you want to see it, because Marines are more expensive. Are more expensive as a unit. Although I could, yeah, okay, let's go with mechanized Rifleman, MMG. And what I want to get here is like just a cheap chaff unit, and its sole role in this situation would be to so we can go with the grenade launcher would probably be more important. The sole role of these guys would be just to get as close to the enemy as possible, drop my guys off. Let's just go with those. Yeah, let's go with the heavier armor. Drop these guys off. So, like, we can get these cheaper, because the problem is I got to consider the cost. Because, like, yeah, those Bradleys are awesome, right? But, like, everything I have here is expensive. So this is a cheap unit. The role these guys have is to just drop them off. Like, an alternative I could take over here would be to get rid of the Bradleys over here on the mechanized riflemen. And instead, because these guys are obviously not going to do very well in terms of dealing with enemy armor. But at the same time, I do want those Bradleys because they're freaking awesome. So what do you do? What do you do? Let me see. I think that's the solution, isn't it? So we got engineers. That might be it. Okay, so let's just get rid of this. Yeah, this is when I say, like, infantry has a bunch of choices. So we get, what is it, mine clearing. Right, so we get ESV Bradleys. They're still Bradleys, and instead I would just drop these off so I can get some like cheap, really cheap effective infantry, and switch these guys to a Bradley version. And go with Iron Fist Bradleys. Okay, we still got points. And we want to, let's say, okay. So these guys are just meant. Alright, so both these guys could be used. Mechanized Rifleman, Mechanized Engineer. What is better? The SMA D versus the 84. I think the SMA would be better. So yeah, let's just put these guys like this and use them for the heavy infantry role, and maybe get more Marine Raiders for like the door kicking capabilities that they have. And maybe, no, that would be a bit too much. Capped up, cap out. Let's go with an extra one. Yeah, just the balancing act over there. And that would be the situation that I would use. I'm gonna try out this deck, see how it does, maybe make some adjustments. Costin here, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. Stay tuned for more.